Good morning, sisters and brothers. Hope you enjoyed your first day of workshops yesterday. All good? Okay. I know you received tons of information, all good stuff. The reminder is, take that information back to your locals. Spread it around. Let everybody know what you learned here. Okay, this morning we have a very special guest with us. You all know him. Let me tell you a little bit. Joe Sellers Jr. is a second-generation sheet metal worker who's been in the industry for 38 years. He hired out in Philadelphia in 1980 and became a member of Local 19, right there in Philly. In 2002, Joe became the local's president and business manager, and that was just the start. He became a general vice president for the International in 2009, and 2 years later, he was elected to be our general secretary treasurer. 3 years ago, in 2015, Joe was unanimously elected to the top spot. I've only been doing this job of addressing this body for 1 day now, but one of the really cool things is I get to do things like this. Sisters and brothers, it's my great honor and pleasure to introduce our smart General President, Joseph Sellers, Jr.
Oh, wow. Ooh, that's a little loud. Good morning. Thank you, John, for that introduction, and I'd like to thank President Prepasich for the invitation and to share some time with you and talk about some of the things that are really impacting us, but also some of the things that I believe that we can do to affect change in our organization. So you heard from John's introduction, and you may see in my bio, I've had a lot of titles in the past. But it is my opinion that if I don't affect change for our members, affect change for our organization, that's all they are is titles. Titles do not represent what we do as individuals to better represent our members. Titles do not do that job. We do that job. We do that job with hard work, and we do that job with equity. I am very happy to be in Seattle. I've come here several times, and I heard Herb say yesterday that there's 2 seasons. There is the winter season and the construction season. And being a construction guy, that's like music to my ears. And I will say that I also listened to the deputy mayor. And with that deputy mayor and how she reflected the mayor's opinions, and really the opinions of this entire region, we are very happy in this area, in this region. This is one of our highest market shares in the construction industry. Across the entire country, the Seattle and this region has a very high market share of construction work done by union sheet metal workers. This is also an area where we introduced our first Smart Heroes program. Local 66 in Seattle, at Joint Base Lewis McChord, which isn't too far from here, they bring into their training center 15 transitioning servicemen and women that are still in the military, and they teach them what it is to be in the union sheet metal industry. They give them 250 hours of instruction right outside of the base. So they are servicemen and women, but they are going through training for construction. And then when they achieve and they graduate through that program, they get advanced placement. So they don't have to start at the beginning. They start at the second year. And they don't have to be in Seattle. They can go to Philadelphia, or they can go to New Jersey. The interesting part about this area is that people love the Seattle area, as you heard from our speakers yesterday. 50% of the students that go through this program want to live in this region, so they join this Local 66. So this is a very important area, region, market share, but also they have a very large and aggressive transit rail program that continues to expand, that continues to renovate, that continues to make progress. Our theme, strength through unity. Wow, that's perfect and appropriate for this time. Last week, we weren't surprised by the Supreme Court, certainly disappointed in the Supreme Court, but we're not surprised in the Janus decision. Kevin did a very good job yesterday of explaining the history, how we got here, and how we got to a 5-4 decision. from the Supreme Court. I view this as an anti-union decision by the Supreme Court. Anti-union of stripping workers of their collective bargaining process, stripping workers of their collective action by dividing us, by dividing the workers and the unions and the people that they work side by side. You look to your left, you look to your right. Are they union or are they not union? And creating that division within the ranks of members. Make no mistake about it. This is big business. This is big business, and this is the far right. This is the majority at this time, at this current time. But with our help and our hard work, that will end in November. They are driving a wedge between unions and the dollars that they have to spend representing workers and dividing us with our collective action. That is where our strength comes from. 200,000 members in our organization working together, pulling on the rope together in the same direction, making sure that we are not weakened. And it's only us in this room, and it's only us of 200,000 members that can affect that change. And we're going to need to make sure our members understand that and educate that as we go through. This Supreme Court reversed 41 years of precedent. 41 years of precedent of a court decision in 1977 of 9-0, as Kevin articulated yesterday. And it was the who's who of Supreme Court justices rendering that decision. This has been a personal campaign for Alito. This has been a 6-year campaign for him. This is supposed to be the most honorable court in the land, in the world, the most respected, the most independent court in the world. But this is a radical act. This is a radical act to go back and reverse a decision. This is a radical act to undo decades, 4 decades of precedent. And they use the First Amendment to cite this decision. And they also say, citing from a 9-0 decision, it's poorly reasoned. Poorly reasoned. Now you listen to what Kevin said yesterday. Poorly reasoned and unworkable. That's a campaign. Now, public sectors can no longer collect those agency fee payers and dues. You have to stand up as a member to be a member. You got to make sure. And that job has just got harder in the last week. I was very surprised to see in the city of St. Paul, Minnesota, Wednesday afternoon, how quickly it came out that they will no longer collect dues from those fees, agency fees, members. Like that. Boom. Like I said, it's been waiting. It's been in the pipeline. We are certainly disappointed, and certainly they were prepared. So we need to make sure that we have our game together. Now, talk about big business. So AFSCME has reached out member to member. They've contacted every member. AFSCME did. Big business, corporations, employers are going door to door. They're hiring people. They're hiring groups of people to go out and door knock on those homes and campaign against being against the union. We do the door knocking. That's our grassroots. And that's what they're doing. They're going out there and they're spending their money, and the Koch brothers, as we heard yesterday, continue to go after unions and working people and working families. So we talk about big business. You know, I go around and I try to harness and leverage the size of our organization, whether it's 200,000 members or it's the assets that we have. The top 1% does not like the fact that the North American Building Trades has assets in our funds and our benefits of over $500 billion. That's leverage. That's ability. That's action. And oh, by the way, the AFL-CIO represents that they represent, through those benefits and those collective bargaining issues, $7 trillion. Well, guess what? They don't like that. They want to break that. They want to take that leverage away. And they want to divide us. So those that do not want to be part of our union, it's not a question, for me, it's not a question of freedom of speech. It's a question of a free ride. It's a free ride on the hard work that SMART has done, that the rail has done, that the construction has done, that the production has done, that every organization within the AFL-CIO has done to get and take the protections that have been provided and the benefits that are provided and the collective bargaining that has been provided away so that they can have a free ride. And we cannot tolerate that. And sometimes we got to have our plan to make sure that they know, so that we educate them on what this union does. And what does that mean? Because it will mean less wages. I have no doubt. If you look at Right to Work and Right to Work states, and you look at the decline of wages and the decline of benefits that happen in those states, it will slowly erode in this decision. And those protections will need to be and need to continue to be upheld by our union. Now, we talk about free ride, right? How about we go out and we say, you know what, I have freedom of speech, and I'm not going to pay my homeowners association fee because I don't want to belong, and I don't think I have to pay that. How far will that get us? Yeah, it won't get us. Or how about we go down the street and we go in the gym and we say, I got freedom of speech. I can belong without paying. Think we get in there? Not a chance. So those are some of the things that happens with a decision like that. And quite frankly, I think the hits are going to keep on coming. I think they have more in the pipeline. I think there's more in the pipeline. So when you have a 6-year campaign by a particular justice, there's more in the pipeline. But we need to make sure that we have our game together, that we have our plan together. And this union has never depended upon a judge or a politician. But we need to make sure we educate our members. Because a lot of our members still believe in the Kool-Aid. I stood here in these regional meetings in 2016, and one of my remarks that I remember distinctly was saying, waking up the day after Election Day with remorse. I woke up with remorse. And you know what? I feel remorse constantly. Last week, I see remorse. And the things that are going on in this country, I see remorse. And I feel remorse. But we have a midterm election coming up. We have a midterm election. And we can change that paradigm. But it's not going to happen by itself. It's not going to happen without our hard work. It's not going to happen with our members and every members standing shoulder to shoulder with labor to make sure that we change our direction. And let's not forget, part of this education is, let's not forget, Justice Scalia passed away, and Mitch McConnell delayed that nominee for over a year. Over a year it was delayed. Now you got Justice Gorsuch, 5-4. Oh, and by the way, Kennedy drops off his resignation or retirement at the White House, takes it directly to the White House. Now, why do we think that is? I'll tell you what I think it is. I think this is going to be a speed to market. Now, let's remember, it took an entire year, and they delayed it. This is going to be a speed to market to confirm the next Supreme Court justice before midterm elections in November. Let's see how fast this really goes now. So these are some of the things that we're up against. These are some of the things that we need to make sure that our members are educated at these midterm elections. Our members know what the real issues are when it comes to this. We need to be laser focused as we fight back and we take back one of the branches, or hopefully two of the branches of this government, and making sure we're working hard to do that. So as we move forward, we need to be unified. And yes, last week was a setback. But as Kevin even said yesterday, our labor history has been marked with setbacks. And there certainly has been blood in the streets. And you, are the leaders of our union. You are the face of SMART. You are the people that do the day-to-day and have the contact. And we need to make sure that they hear our message. We are here right now. This is our moment right now. This is our moment to act right now. To make sure that we are strategic in our thinking. We are strategic in our planning. We are mobilizing our members. We are getting our members not only out to vote, making sure that they're registered, make sure that their families are registered, but we are getting out and we're knocking on the doors to make sure that we can have a successful campaign leading up to November and after November, so that we don't have remorse, so that we can shift the control of power from the majority of all three branches there's right now. But as I said, it's going to take some education, because our members need to know the issues, and they need to trust the message that comes from us, each one of us. There is change in the air, so it's not doom and gloom, but there is change in the air. But that doesn't come without hard work. Look at the teachers, what they're doing. Remarkable in states what they're doing, their collective action, their collective voice. Walking off the job. Making sure that they're trying to get those better benefits. And guess what? They haven't forgot other people within the state. Some of them have protected other union members that are in that state. So there is change in the air. There is organizing. There is collective action. There is planning and engaging. And they're winning. And we need to take a page out of their book of what they're doing. Because if we don't organize internally, if we don't organize externally, if we don't organize ourselves and we don't create a strategic plan, we're going to continue to get smaller. We're going to continue to get smaller. Now I'm going to give you a couple numbers. So those public unions are expecting over time that they will lose 20 to 25% of their members just over this decision. I don't disagree with their numbers. I don't disagree with those numbers. I see similar numbers in Right to Work. And by the way, there's 28 states right now that are Right to Work. Now we have the public sector, so you combine that over time. So brothers and sisters, local chairman, local vice chairman, you are where the rubber meets the road, per se. You are a grassroots campaign. You are the day-to-day meeting our members. We need to make sure that we are training, that we are educating, and that we are representing our members every day. And I know you do that. And that's what this session does. This training and education brings us together so that we can pollinate all the ideas of who's doing what and what's going on and how do we do it better as an organization, and coordinating our message so we are pulling on the rope together, so that we are doing our share, so that we are adding value to our job, to our union, to our local, to our region, so that we're educating those members on their rights. Because our collective strength has always been with our members. This is their union. And our collective strength is with 200,000. I'll give you an example. John introduced it in his introduction. I'm a second-generation sheet metal worker, and I'm a proud father of a third generation. And I will say, he's only been in a year and a half. So when I talk about collective action, my home local, apprentices have to do 10 work services in a year. They have to do 10. So they got to either go out and do door knocking, they got to go door to door, or they got to hang lit, or they got to go out and handbill those that are unfair to labor. He did 16. And he called me up and he was very proud to say, you know, I had to do 10, but I did 16, which I was very happy with. All right? They had an announcement and they gave recognition to those that did well just this past Monday, yesterday. One young man had 34. Supposed to do 10. He did 34. We need to figure out how to harness that energy. We need to figure out how to deploy that energy. We need to make sure that our members, our groups are well informed and well educated so that they can go out with our message and spread it far and wide, just as other unions need to do as well. It does take embracing some new tools. It embraces taking, not only emails, which for my son doesn't really much matter, texting probably more so, but using new tools, using, Twitter. Not at 3 o'clock in the morning. No Twitters at 3 o'clock in the morning. But using new tools, using Facebook, and using face-to-face. So for about the last year and a half, the Smart Army has been out there working. The Smart Army has been working on behalf of our members, making sure that we're trying to educate them, making sure that we're in our communities. And if you've seen what the Smart Army's doing, trying to make sure that we're community-based. Because we are. We're part of the fabric of our community. We are the football coach. Hey, did you know that Joe is a member of SMART? Not only is he the baseball coach, so we are part of that fabric, and we need to make sure that we continue to engage our community. We have 2 coordinators in almost every state that have a call regularly, at least every once a month. So I asked you to take out the pledge card. I asked you to fill that out. I asked you to be part of that Smart Army. I asked you to fill it out, complete it, and be engaged. We've signed up 9,200 members in this year. That doesn't count what we've been doing for the previous year. So we have a whole new group of people. And with those 2 local coordinators, we're trying to make our message local because it may seem different in Pennsylvania. That is not right to work. Or maybe it has to do with California, which I understand that Governor Brown has really done a yeoman's job when it comes to getting out the message about Janus for unions and labor people. So that message is a little different than what you may see in a right-to-work state. So we're using those coordinators. And if you want to volunteer, and if you want to be a coordinator or a local coordinator, please send us an email, send us a text, sign up, because that's what we need to do. We need to coordinate this effort. And as we continue to build this Smart Army, they're going to be our activists. They're going to be our activists on the job. They're going to be the education tool that will be able to spread that education. We've lost some of our communication with our membership. We've learned some tough lessons. I'll tell you what, man. When I woke up in the fall and in the early winter, it's like, man, we need to learn some lessons, and we did. And we need to listen. We need to make sure that we're listening to our members. We need to hear what they have to say. As I go around, I try to go out. And when I go into a city like this, I try to meet members. As a matter of fact, I've scheduled some meetings with local chairman here today, so that when I go into their state, I like to swing by and maybe go to a yard or go to a change room or go to a union meeting. I just did that maybe 2 weeks ago. Go to a change room. Making sure that we're meeting members, engaging members, talking about what are the issues, not being disconnected from the work and the workplace. To make sure we talk to them. And one of the lessons learned is we can't just go to them every 2 years. We can't go to them every 4 years. We have to go there day to day. We can't go to them every 5 years. We got to go to them every day, day to day, making sure they understand, and making sure, brothers and sisters, that they believe in the education that we have, and the education of what are they going to do for their job. How is their workplace going to be better? How are their conditions going to be better? Or are they going to erode wages, benefits, safety? Or are they going to continue to erode? So we need to keep up a combined effort. We need to make sure that we, at every level of this organization is fighting back with one voice. And I said to you last year that if we combine your voice, your voice, your voice, then we have an opportunity to affect change. And as I started out, that is our responsibility. It's our job. It's our responsibility as leaders and the face of this union to make sure our members know what's right, what's good for all members, for the entire labor movement, so that we can affect change in this November. So, brothers and sisters, I'm asking you to fill out that pledge card. I'm asking you to make sure that our grassroots campaign through local chairman and Lowe's vice chairman and each one of us in this room, make sure that we have that campaign on our minds, in our plans, active from the day we leave here to make sure that we can affect change in November. So with that smart pledge card, if you would, please bring them up here at the end of the day's session before you go out to your breakout session so that we can make sure we're updating. And when you go to a meeting, make sure that you're talking to members and making sure if you need more pledge cards, make sure that they understand what they're up against. When you're on the job, making sure they understand what just happened last week and what will that mean to us. So I want to talk about something else. I also want to talk about something else. So, I come to these regional meetings, and for the last 7 years now, and I sit in the DLC session, and I still can't get over the one automated clip where the member gets struck by a train at night. I just can't get that out of my mind. And it appalls me that they blame the worker and they blame negligence and they want to blame that poor member out there working hard, making sure that that train moves every day or that bus moves every day. And I think we need to look at our safety culture. You're going to hear me talk about this from time to time. And how do we change our safety culture? So I want to share with you just a couple things. So we're doing a lot of members assistance programs. And we talk about, physical health. We talk about being in the right shape and the right health. And we also talk about those stressors that affect us on the job. Something happens at home. Maybe there's a crisis at home. What do we do? How do we handle that? How do we work? It affects us at the workplace, and that affects us, every day. And some of it is I don't know how people deal with some of the mental health and addiction things that we see in our country today. So we also need to work on minimizing injuries and workplace violence. I don't know if you're on part of the Smart Army. I do a video every month, and this month's video was on workplace violence and what do we need to do, and the laws and the laws that we're trying to, well, not laws that we're trying, the acts that we're trying to get voted in to make sure that we're protecting our workers, making sure that we're protecting. You heard a little bit about it yesterday by the two state senators about protecting our members. But we also need to make sure that we can help a member when they're in distress. And I'm going to give you one example. I ran into a colleague, and just walking into a meeting like this, walked into a colleague, and the guy, just talking to him, hey, how you doing? And he was doing okay, and I could see something was wrong with him. And as we got in a little bit, I trying to poke around a little bit to make sure everything was all right. He told me that his son was in Las Vegas during that shooting. Now, thank God his son wasn't shot, but his son was standing in the location where all the people were shot, and just gravitated a little bit to the right of the stage and was not shot. But he had traumatic experience from that. And his son was a teenager, and and he was in distress. This colleague was in distress. And unfortunately, I did not have a way to give him a phone number. I did not have a way to have him talk to somebody in behavioral health or a member's assistance program. We had a program, but I didn't have it on me. I'm checking my pockets, checking my pants. I don't have it. So here's an immediate need. There's a family in stress. There's a father that's what he's thinking about. What's his son doing with the stress that he's under from this shooting in Las Vegas? So since that day, I will not forget where that number is. And I asked you to write down, when you're sitting here right now, write down that number. When somebody comes to you, or you see that they're in stress, or you see that their family member is in stress, that's it right here in the book. Right here in the book. So if you go to page 34, United Behavioral Health, there's an 866 number there. Write that down. Don't be caught when a brother or sisters or a child or a friend is in crisis. And you never know when crisis is going to come. Now, I will say that since the hurricanes in Houston, Texas, and throughout Florida, Schmoet, which is the safety arm on the construction side, and there's a contribution that goes from hours that are worked, they've set up this hotline. So I'm going to give you this hotline. If, in fact, you're in a crisis situation, you don't have the behavioral health number for yourself, you can give them this number, which is the Schmoet helpline. So we started it during the crisis of the hurricanes, and now we just keep that running because families are in crisis on a daily basis. These addictions are affecting each one of us. So write this number down. This helpline, now you see I pulled this out of my wallet, right? I have it in my wallet so that I won't forget where this number is. But it's 877-844-6227. That's a helpline. If you don't have any place to go, you contact that, whether it's personally or family, and making sure that we get the help that we need at the time that crisis hits. Because you never know when that crisis is going to affect you or your family. And as I go back and I talk about a little bit about the DLC, and I talk about the sessions, and I try to go and make sure I visit all the sessions, and I talk to members and the impact that all this has on this union, I also turn to page 39. Right? And unfortunately, there's 7 brothers on that page that have lost their lives going to work. That is what I mean by changing our safety culture. Making sure that our mental conditions, making sure that we're helping families with stressors, making sure that we're focused on safety, making sure that every day we do a little better, making sure that we try to prevent any and every accident, making sure that our members are well protected. And I say that in part with, I read an interesting article just recently, and it's a construction article, so it relates, but not directly. But it's staggering to me. So in the 24 years that this survey was done in right-to-work conditions, fatalities, occupational fatalities have increased 14%. Occupational fatalities in right-to-work states. Now, when this public sector rule comes out, there's going to be a percentage of fatalities. And they directly correlate union density with that fatality. They go on further to say 1% decline in membership equates to 5% of occupational fatalities. So when I talk about safety culture, if we continue down the path, and as I expect, they're lined up one after the other to go to the Supreme Court, we need to make sure that our members, that they understand, and if something's unsafe, they need to stand up and say it's unsafe, so that we make sure that our members are protected. So I see as this Janus and other decisions come down, it directly affects a lot of sectors of our industry. And we need to make sure that we give it our best effort. It deserves our best effort. The safety of our member deserves the best effort. And I want to change our safety culture. And I don't want to see 7 names in a book. And I know you don't want it either. But here again, it starts here, and it starts with us. And we have the ability to affect change. So I like to say thank you, John and John. I appreciate being here. I appreciate showing and telling you some of my comments. But I think that we need to roll our sleeves up. We need to put sweat equity into the changes that we need to make on behalf of our union, on behalf of your local, on behalf of the good and the welfare of our members and members to come. For generations, we have stood on the shoulders of generations. The foundations that were built from the sweat equity of people that came before us, we enjoy those benefits. Now it's our turn to stand up. Now it's our turn to affect change. Now it's our turn to make sure that we're mobilizing our members, to make sure that the members of this generation and the members of the next generation have the same opportunities that I did, same opportunities that you did, to be part of this union, to be part of the moment, to be part of a better family and conditions that will support that family. So I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to say, strength for unity. Be safe. Thank you. I get rid of all my paraphernalia.